India's biggest food leaders, best food philosophies, genius culinary minds converge right here to share their master strokes for success. Welcome to Secret Sauce. I'm Govindraj Ethiraj, and joining us today is Taj Group of Hotels Executive Chef Aniruddha Roy. So Chef, I'm going to ask you, about where you started. So tell me about your first years and tell me about when you actually started getting attracted to food and the concept of food, which was sort of marked the beginning of this journey that has landed us here.
So, I'll have to probably go back to my childhood.
Absolutely.
I was born in Calcutta, but brought up all over across North India. My father had a forces background, and I lived a long time for a better part of my life in Lucknow, which is probably
the food capital.
Yes, the Lyon of India, and not only food. I mean, I grew up in a surrounding an environment where food, literature, art, theatre, music, culture was all appreciated, and somehow, somewhere that got embedded in me, and there was an inherent desire to appreciate that, and I think this profession is an answer to that calling. I would be lying if I said that right from the beginning, inception, that I wanted to be a chef. But yes, the glamour of hotel industry did attract me.
So when did you know that you could actually take this up as a career? Was there a point that you actually entered the kitchen and you said, "Oh, this is something I could do"?
No. Like I said, that what attracted me was the glamour of the hotel industry, and I said, let me do hotel management. And then once I entered there, and then I realized that one area where you could allow your creative juices to flow and you could appreciate art was the kitchens. And so that's how
So, and how did your family react when you said that you wanted to work in the hotel industry?
We're not very kind, but I think that's been long forgotten, and I think God has been very, very kind.
Would they have liked you to become a doctor or an engineer at that time?
Yes. Somehow that never happened, and I think I'm very happy that it never happened. I wouldn't have liked doing anything other than what I'm doing right.
So did you apply for some things other than a hotel management course, or was that were you clear and focused at that time that this is
No. I applied for every college possible within the bounds of engineering and medical, and didn't get through anywhere. So
fortunately. Yeah. So you said you joined hotel management. So where was this?
In Calcutta. I did my hotel management from Calcutta, and subsequently I went overseas. I studied in Klesheim in Salzburg as well, but that was for an advanced course. But
so you said it's only after you joined hotel management that you experienced the lure of the kitchen.
Yeah, the thrill of working in a kitchen.
Tell us about the first time that happened.
Well, first time it happened was when I was doing an industrial training in one of the Taj hotels in Mumbai. I will not name the hotel. So, grueling
there could have
work.
been only one.
No, there were two, in fact, that time. But then, sometimes you go through torrid times, excruciatingly painful. Besides the fact that most of the times you're forever smelling of onion and chip fat. So if I look back at those years, then yes, probably they were quite challenging. But then once I got through that, then it became
training.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then it became very interesting, because I realized that I could be myself when I was in the kitchen.
So did you feel like that you were like an artist walking into that you wanted to create? Did you want to do?
Yes, not conscious, but somewhere at the back of my mind, always that's what probably lured me.
So do you remember the first thing that you did, or some of the first things that you did?
The first time I was doing my industrial training, and I will not name the chef here. So I was asked to separate, to break eggs and separate the egg white from the egg yolk, and 600 pieces. So started at 10 in the morning, I think 9:30, 10, and till about 2 o'clock I was still separating the in those days we did not have so much of automation, and we had to separate it with hand. And here walks in the man, and he asked me, "Oh, okay, are you done with it?" I said, "Yes, chef, I'm done." And I was there standing proudly, displaying the not so artistic work of mine. And he comes in and he just mixes it up in a half a minute, and there he goes. So, that was one time when I could almost kill him. So that was like getting baptized by fire, and that's what happens in kitchens. Of course, it doesn't in today's world, but yes, when we joined, that is what we faced.
So tell me about your first job.
I joined the Taj as a kitchen management training, and I worked for 4 years. Started with Taj Bengal in Calcutta in the year '89, and I worked for 4 years over there, and I worked through different areas, different restaurants. Worked at the all-day dining, worked at banquets, worked in chambers, which is the club. Worked in an Indian restaurant which we had just opened there. So I had varied experiences in that hotel. And after 4 years, I wanted to go out overseas and study, and I always had my sight on this school by the name Klesheim in Salzburg. But I didn't have the funds to do it. So I went overseas. I joined a cruise liner, made some money from there, and used that to fund myself. So that was my initial first.
So did you want to study, or rather did you acquire the passion to study more when you were at the Taj or in your first job, or was it even before that?
No, I think once I joined the industry and once I started working, that's when I realized that it was imperative to add repertoire to your already set of knowledge, and that's what.
And you felt that because you saw others doing better and because they had additional qualifications, or?
No, I think what made me do it is that we as chefs in India were at a very nascent stage, and when we compared ourselves to our colleagues who were working overseas, I think there was a huge gap in potential, as well as not as much as potential, I would say, but there was a huge gap in terms of knowledge and training. So that's what propelled me to
get an additional.
Right.
So would you say that these 4 years also in some ways have defined the way you are as a chef, as a professional, or maybe even as a person?
The initial 4 years, like I said, were very, very grueling, but then I evolved. I had my fair shares of challenges, but I think every time I wanted to quit, there was a Messiah who came, probably lifted my spirits. So in that,
so you did want to quit because of pressures?
Yes,
and so on.
at times it got so horribly painful that you just wanted to call it.
So the Messiah would be someone from?
Messiah, I worked under certain great inspiring chefs. Inceptual period of my career, I trained under the great Chef Ananda, who's not with he's hung up his boots. Retired, and so got shaped under him for some time. Then I worked with certain international chefs. I worked with Chef Anton Mosselman in London. I worked with Gordon Ramsay. Worked with a great chef by the name Hans Blum in Austria. Worked with Richard Neat, who had come to Taj to open a restaurant. So worked with these great, inspiring people who always, encouraged and kept the spirits alive.
So what are the mistakes that you've made, or you feel you've made, again in the early years? Kitchen mistakes, or what I would call management mistakes, maybe managing off a situation mistakes, which again have imprinted, let's say, certain things in your life, or certain lessons which are part of you and your persona now.
We had these, I was working in a soups section, and we had to boil chicken and keep the stock with which you would prepare the soup. And my job was to come in the morning and strain out the stock and keep the stock and throw out the chicken bones or the carcass. I don't know what happened to me, what took over me. Probably had a late night of partying in those younger days. So I came, I strained it, and I kept the chicken bones there and threw the stock. And so, yes, it is funny when I look back on it. But that's you know, in those days you didn't have those chicken-based powder or concentrates with which you could probably churn out another stock in a jiffy. You had to painstakingly boil chicken bones for a period of 4 to 5 hours before you could arrive at a decent stock. So my chef who was there, who came and he said, gosh, what have you done? What do I do now? So yes, this is probably something.
So lesson is not to be forgetful, or maybe not to have too many late nights.
Right.
Yeah. So you went from working in the Taj Bengal in Calcutta, which is obviously Calcutta is a quiet place, and then you went to and you studied, and then you went to first on a cruise
liner, then I went to study. Then I worked in a restaurant by the name St. Peter in Salzburg.
So tell us about the cruise part. I mean, that's I'm assuming a fairly competitive, high intensity,
high volume. Everything is timed to perfection. You have in a time span between say 7:30 to 10:30 in the night. You have 2,600 meals to serve. Same is the case for breakfast. Same lunch is probably a little lesser, probably 1,000 meals. So yes, it is high intensity, grueling work, and everything is timed to perfection.
So would you say that job taught you more about discipline than maybe?
That job taught me more about, yes, one was discipline, and second was how to handle large volumes, the kind of planning that goes into it, day in and day out. And this is in hotels, probably we would do a large banqueting like that, sit down once in 6 months or once in 4 months, and there you're doing it every day. So you know, it has to be meticulously planned. Everything has to be to perfection, and it's almost like a an orchestra that every musician has to fit in somehow.
Yeah, and some of the other chefs I've spoken to, for instance, some of their biggest mistakes and lessons have been in planning.
Yes.
Right? And I don't know whether you've had the same problem, or maybe this job helped you find.
Yes, this job helped me to understand, to realize that God is in the details. Detail it out before the action starts, and I think you'll be safe once the drama unfolds.
Yeah. So tell me about the cuisine. I mean, we haven't touched on that. So you began in Lucknow, in some ways, which is the food capital, and you did a hotel management in Calcutta. Then you worked in Calcutta, went on to cruise. What was your what was happening on the culinary side at all this while?
So although I lived in Lucknow, I grew up eating food which is synonymous to Lucknow. But then I specialized in Western and European food. So, like, I had the taste buds which were, attuned to Lucknowi and robust Indian rustic food. However, since I trained under great chefs from the Western world, so that's where the finesse of plating, the finesse of presenting the food, I learned from them. And today I can easily marry the two. And here you have a piece of robust, hearty gravy which can be presented in a manner which is truly global in nature.
So tell me, so if as you develop and grow as a chef, If you were to, let's say, get onto a plane or hop onto a plane, or for that matter a ship, which you did, where would you pick what specific skills from? So let's say, would you say that the best place to learn planning as a chef is a cruise liner? To learn plating is the school you went to in Austria, or maybe a restaurant in somewhere in Western Europe? Maybe the art of design, maybe in France. So take us through a journey. Suppose you were to start today and said, okay, you've got a ticket. I mean, you've got 6 months and enough money to buy as many tickets. Where would you go, and what are the skills that you would pick up?
So I think I would probably head to France and start with the Rungis market in France. The reason why I say that I would start with Rungis is because it's very important to know your ingredients.
Yeah, sauce.
Sauce, understand and touch and feel and be able to decipher the ingredients, and it all begins there. And from there, I would probably move to Paris, where I still feel I'm a bit of a traditionalist, and I'm a bit of a conservative in that domain. I think some of the greatest chefs
have passed
still
through, yeah.
Yes, they've passed through the grind of Paris, and that's where I would go. And it's important to learn the basics first, and then from there you can grow. I mean, and from there once you know the basics, it's like you said, doing large number of plates, say 2,000 plates, 2,500 plates. It's all about planning, and that you get a hang of it by doing it a few times, making mistakes, and you learn on the way. My journey would probably end in Austria, although as far as desserts and chocolates are considered, people make a beeline to Switzerland. That's the more popular destination, but I feel the kind of dessert and patisserie that is done in Austria, personally, I find it superior to what is done in Switzerland. I've been to both the places. I've spent time, but maybe for some emotional reason, I'm a little biased towards Austria.
So I note that you don't have any Indian city or town in this journey.
Like I said, I lived in Lucknow. I grew up.
But would you treat that as one of the many stops?
I think it's
even today.
Even today, it's unparalleled. I mean, I think if you want to learn Indian cuisine, and if you want to acquire expertise in Indian cuisine, that's the place to start with.
Right. So tell us about Gordon Ramsay. So I mean, obviously everyone has an image of him.
I trained over there as an intern, and yes, I know what you're hinting at, but I never.
You didn't get screamed at or shouted at.
I mean, never happened.
But what was different there? I mean, not that Gordon Ramsay is the only example, but what was different there compared to...
I worked for Anton Mosselmann in London. He runs a very successful restaurant in Belgravia. I found working with Mosselmann a little more rewarding. Sure. And therefore, I thought I'll speak about it. Again, what I learned from him was respecting your ingredients. Like every kitchen, every commercial establishment, you have a recipe, but to any dish. And he was extremely transparent, forthcoming. He allowed us to photocopy those recipes in those. I'm talking about some many years ago, and. But he also, in the same breath, he told me that, these are recipes, but then these recipes are only documented figures. What you have to do is bring a soul to it. You have to breathe life into it, and that can be only done with your hands. So How you do it is you'll probably learn from me, you'll probably learn from someone else, and then you'll develop your own style and you bring style to that food. So that was my biggest learning. I think it's not about aping your master, it's about learning from your master and evolving, and then lending your own touch to it.
And that's something that you do today when you work with
younger. Yes, I try and impart whatever I know. I try and impart to people, and I keep telling them that
be transparent
and don't have to ape it. I mean, you do whatever you feel is the right quality of food that should go onto the plate. You bring in your own style to the food. I can only give you a guideline. Recipes, like I said, are just a guideline, and rest to breathe life. You have to do it yourself, and that's what will differentiate you.
So we're running to the end of our conversation. So 2 quick questions. So one is, when you conceptualize or create a dish today, whether we're sitting here in a Chinese restaurant or an Asian restaurant, or let's say in an Indian restaurant, one is, who are you thinking of as your customer or your patron, and what are you visualizing? I mean, what are you trying to bring together in that exercise?
Okay, so, well, as you know, as you rise up the rung and you become an executive chef or a head chef, your scope of work completely changes. You know, you are no more plating art. Yes, it is art which is being plated, but at the same time you need to be able to, you need to ensure that it is marketable, it is sellable, it is good enough to make the margins, and it is sustainable. So when we create something which is new, which as in a product, so the first thing that you see is that what is the segment that you want to target? Is it something which is sellable to that segment? Once you figured that out, then you see that do you have the resources to create it, and not once, again and again, consistently. When I say resources, I mean ingredients both which can be found locally as well as what you need to import. And the third is, do you have the talent available with you to be able to create it not once but again consistently, day in, day out, every day, 365 days. So these are the 3 major
sort of benchmarks with you.
Yeah,
with which you go into
like you need to tick these boxes.
Yeah, right. Okay, last question. So this is about secret sauce. So let me ask you then. In some ways, it's summing up our conversation as well. So what would be your secret sauce or secret sauces?
So, like I said earlier, I believe in surrounding myself with people who are far, far superior to what I am, and nurture them but not control them, and allow them to grow, allow them to find their own space, and I think life becomes very easy after that. You know, they look after you rather than you looking after them. So that's been my secret sauce to life, I think. Wherever I've worked, I've been in the capacity of a head chef. I've been blessed with a great team in all places, and life and work both have become very, very easy because of them. And they are the ones who've made me what I am.
Right. Chef Aniruddha, lovely note to end on. Thank you so much for speaking with me.
Thank you for having me on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you.